Hollyoaks has dropped down to number 4 after getting to number 2 in November. For December, Hollyoaks, however, drops. I've talked about how I'm always very entertained by Hollyoaks, and I still am. But I feel like the show is now starting to go through an adjustment period because Lucy Allen took over as producer not that long ago. I feel like her vision is still kind of a work in progress coming off of a show that had the same producer for a while. There's a lot of weakness to this transition that I had to drop the show down to number 4. The biggest weakness was that kidnapping story. Darren was kidnapped. Then the kidnapper lets him go. Then the other kidnapper wants him dead, but they're still keeping him alive. I mean, the story had no substance in the first place. It was basically two random villains kidnapping Darren, but whatever. I don't know. Bit ridiculous, but we'll get back to that if I remember. Let's get to some of the better stories though. The Mizbah story has remained probably the best story on the show, at least for the month of December. It was a lot of drama within that story for that family. Shaq had forged a letter against Ali from another person trying to say Ali sexually assaulted them. Shaq got arrested, but Ali got him off because that is Ali's son. And then Sammy was arrested for attacking Ali, and then Imran got upset and wanted to attack Ali. So the family wanted revenge on Ali. In the end, there was also this plot where Teresa was like trying to set Ali up, like making him have a crush on her, and then having a wire to get him catch him in the act, trying to sexually assault her, but that didn't work. Ali caught onto it. But in the end, Sammy did threaten Ali's life, basically. But then Sammy ended up leaving town as well. So the character of Sammy is no more on Hollyoaks. I mean, the story was good. I still feel like it had some weaknesses, though. Not gonna lie. I feel like they did a better job setting up the story over the last few months than what we got from the climaxes from the story in December. The other big story was, would Toby get caught by Nate for Lisa's death? Toby and Felix kind of concocted some plans against Nate, who has been investigating that family, the Devereaux, for Lisa's disappearance and later found out to be death. Felix ended up lying for Toby that Lisa was drunk and then they didn't see her anymore. They found her clothes. Then they ended up blaming Mitchell for her death. Celeste was the one to come up with the plan to put it all on their other brother, Mitchell, who left town, who was basically blackmailed into leaving town by Toby. Unfortunately, as much as I like the Devereaux, they've really fucked up the story. It has become extremely convoluted. And they need to recast Mitchell or something because he needs to be a part of this story if this is the direction they're going to keep going. I don't like some of the turns the story has gone. I talked about in one of the last Hollyoaks episodes, Hollyoaks videos I did, that the show can be pretty good at writing their characters into corners, but then writing them out in at least a decent way. I don't feel like they did this here. So Lisa's body was found. They're trying to blame it all on Mitchell. I hate that Toby and Celeste are they've been written in such a corner. Celeste still needs more to do as a character, and I'm going to keep harping on that for months to come, because right now, her just being Toby's sidekick for fucking 2 years, basically, always just trying to get Toby out of trouble and not really getting any character threads of her own or story threads or just character development. It needs to happen. The other stories were like Warren was getting blamed for Timmy's death. Trish was basically like trying to play Warren and Maxine against each other. During that story, Sienna wanted another chance with Warren. That became a mess too. I feel like all of the stories got weak this month. I was still entertained, which is why Hollyoaks is still high, but it needs some work. I ain't gonna lie, it needs some work. Alla was the young Alla, 14-year-old Alla is pregnant. So that's the big story there with her and Charlie, who had slept together. Alla ends up pregnant. Ollie kissed Becky. He's been like trying to pursue Becky, and Becky's been using that to her advantage, basically getting Ollie to keep taking the fall for her and all the villainous things she keeps doing. That was one of the better storylines, honestly, that I at least kind of enjoy, is Ollie being stupid for crushing on Becky and Becky using that against him. But overall, December was a much weaker month than normal for Hollyoaks for the year 2021. The month of December for soap operas in general was just overall weaker. I don't know why, what happened, but it was. Now, the reason I kind of see this as a transition is that there's this new big family in town. The Chen Williams, I believe. I like that there is an Asian woman at the top of this family, the matriarch of the family, if you will. And they at least kind of managed to tie in the male, I don't even know his name because I hated that story so much, but the man that was holding Darren captive and had him kidnapped is basically a part of that family. They also seem to have tied the father of that family, Dave, to possibly being Maxine's father. So I guess if Dave is Maxine's father, then Maxine has ties to this Chen Williams family as well. So I feel like this is, I guess, Lucy Allen's, the producer's way of putting her own mark on the show by putting in this big new family, trying to tie that family to the canvas. It's going to need a lot more work than what's going on because it's a pretty big family. But that's why I'm giving Hollyoaks the benefit of the doubt, because it is so entertaining to me and I usually like it. It gets a period to transition. I feel like January still needs time to transition, but some things are going to need to change for me to keep Hollyoaks high, like Celeste getting the story, or for that, the Devereaux drama to be less convoluted. A recast Mitchell would help. So all in all, it was a weaker month for Hollyoaks, but it's still one of the stronger shows overall in my rankings, mostly because it's so entertaining. But it falls to 4, and it has potential to keep falling. But I mean, if you've watched other videos in my rankings, you know how much I hate the writing on a lot of these other shows. The writing could be super bad on a lot of these other shows that I have a hard time seeing Hollyoaks drop too much further.